Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for checking out today's episode of Hardball Sports Talk. My name is Brandon, and joining me, like always, is my good friend Alex. Alex, how are you today?
Ahoy, Brandon. I'm doing good. I muted myself and unmuted, and gotta love technology.
Hey, at least we have a really easy button on our mics to do that, though, because I muted myself at the same time, too. So,
Oh, I just gotta look to see if the light's on or not, and half the time I think I hit it and I don't hit it. Anyways, what are we
yep.
talking about today, Brandon?
Today, we are going to be going over the AL East. Henceforth, why, if you're watching the video, I am probably committing 3 federal crimes and a couple state crimes in Boston and New York, or Massachusetts and New York, excuse me. I have a New York Yankees t-shirt. Don't ask me why I own one, but I own one. And a Boston Red Sox hat because I have hats for every Major League Baseball team. So I figured if we're going to do the AL East, let's represent the AL East today. And what better way to talk AL East than Boston and New York? So I went ahead and threw this on for this episode. We have a really fun episode for you guys. So what we're going to do is basically I will tell you guys the projected lineups for each of these teams, and then Alex will go by and tell you guys some of the main transactions they made this year, either players they lost through free agency and trades or acquired through free agency and trades. This episode, we kind of rushed a little bit just because we've been working on other stuff and we weren't completely on the same page of what we were looking for, but we're on the same page now. So this one might be a little bit sloppy. The rest of
Yeah.
them, though, I promise will be a lot better just because we'll be more comfortable in what the other one's thinking and all that. But before we get started on that, we have been teasing you guys for I don't even know how long now.
Feels like a month. Probably not,
Probably
but
it's probably been longer than a month actually.
yeah.
So we've been teasing you guys about a guest that we are having on the show, and we will not be airing this episode next week. However, this guest will be joining us next week to record an episode. And this guest name is John Minch. And that name might not ring any bells for anybody, but he was the catcher, Hodges, in Little Big League. He was also the bench coach in Moneyball, the Brad Pitt movie. So he also played minor league baseball. He got up as high as Double A. So it'll be an awesome guest for us to have on. There's a chance, I don't know for sure yet, but there's a chance that he'll bring on a second person from Moneyball, or not Moneyball, Little Big League, excuse me. Uh, that has not been confirmed yet. There was talk about it at one point. I don't know if the other person will be joining or not, so I will not be saying who that other person is. But we are really excited either way if the second person or not joins. Little Big League, I think I can speak for both of us here very safely, is one of our favorite movies from our childhood. Just because we're both big sports guys, big baseball guys, and we'll talk more about this movie in our movie series. But basically, the premise of it is a kid takes over the Minnesota Twins and then becomes the manager of the team. Like we love playing Stratomatic. It's a board game. That's our love right there, is managing our own baseball team. We play Stratomatic out of the park baseball on our computers. So it's basically a fantasy dream of ours, this movie. And having somebody on from that movie on our show is just so surreal for us. And we are so excited that John has agreed to come on to the show with us. Uh, I've been chatting with him for probably close to 2 months now about this, and schedules are finally lining up that we can make it work next week. We're going to do the interview next week sometime, and then we will probably air it middle to late March is kind of what I'm thinking right now. We have a lot with this movie series going on. We're trying to get the movie series and this series of predictions done before opening day. So we're going to be scrambling a lot. So there might be some weeks where you guys have 3 episodes. So, but without further ado, let's get started on today's episode, the American League East preview. So the first team we're going to talk about is the New York Yankees. The projected lineup for the Yankees, They have their batting lineup. I'll just read it in order here, but I'm not gonna say batting first and everything like that. Third base, they got DJ LeMahieu. Outfielders, you got Juan Soto, Aaron Judge, and Alex Verdugo. First base, you got Anthony Rizzo. Second base, you got Gleyber Torres. Shortstop, you got Anthony Volpe. Catcher, you got Austin Wells. And then the DH for most days will be Giancarlo Stanton. Their rotation, they got 6 names here to talk about: Garrett Cole, Carlos Rodon, Marcus Stroman, Clark Schmidt, Nestor Cortez, and Domingo Herman. So the Yankees made some nice moves this offseason. Alex is going to tell you guys about some of those. I guess some subtractions is Domingo Herman, a free agent, but I guess they must have brought him back. I didn't see that. So
I'll say, I was gonna point that out that they must have re-signed him through, out of
it has
free
on the team.
agency.
I'm not sure.
Right. Anyways,
But
like you were saying, they, brought in, probably a big time name in Juan Soto, who, hit 35 bombs last year, 109 RBIs, and had a 275. Um, you might not think this impressive, but the dude played all 162 games in the MLB season. Not many people do that. Granted, he was able to probably DH most of those and then play outfield. Um, but they also added Marcus Stroman, Trent Grisham, and Alex Verdugo. Stroman was a previous All Star. I believe I don't remember his last All Star appearance. But last year he was with the Cubs. He went 10-9 and at a 3.98 ERA. They actually lost quite a bit. In the free agency trade market, whatever you want to call it. They lost Wandy Peralta, Frankie Montas, Isaiah Kinner, uh, Filia. Yeah, you're muted, so we're just gonna go with that. Ignore me. Louis
Falefa.
Falefa, Louis
Yep.
Severino, and then Kenyon Middleton.
So one interesting thing here with Verdugo is he was actually traded from Boston to New York, which is not something that you hear of very often. Division
No.
rivals trading, yet alone big time division rivals trading. It'd be one thing
Mhm.
if it was Tampa Bay, but like that'd be weird enough. But Boston and New York trading is not very common, and I think we talked about that trade when that trade happened, and we went into
Yeah.
the history of the two teams trading. But it's still worth mentioning there. The next team we're going to cover real quick for you guys is the Baltimore Orioles. Baltimore, their first baseman projected to be Ryan O'Hearn. Their catcher is the young stud Adley Rutschman. Second base, they got Jordan Westberg. Third base, they got Gunnar Henderson. This website does not have a shortstop listed for them, so I'm not sure.
My projection is gonna be Jackson Holiday. I don't know if he'll make
Jackson,
it,
oh,
but
yep, Jackson Holiday, yep. Their
yeah,
young prospect stud that they're calling up most
he
likely to
was.
start the season.
Yeah, he was the son of former Roy Halladay of the mostly Toronto Blue Jays.
I didn't know that was his son.
Mhm.
Interesting. And then outfielders, we got Anthony Santander, Cedric Mullins, and Austin Hayes. And then they have Ryan Mountcastle doing a lot of the DHing. For pitchers, they got Corbin Burns, who they traded for. Alex will talk about that in a second. Grayson Rodriguez, Dean Creamer, Tyler Wells, and Cole Irvin. So, Alex, go ahead and tell us about some of these
Yeah, sorry, I'm
additions and
thinking of
subtractions.
the sorry, I'm thinking of the wrong Holiday. It's not Roy Hall. I think it was Matt Holiday. I think it's
Okay.
his son. I'm looking it up as we speak. Because I don't want to get it wrong. Because
Yeah.
that's bad. But I'm pretty sure it was Matt Holiday and not Roy. It's probably when you have the same last name, but they're not related. Anyways, the Baltimore they lost Kyle Gibson, Aaron Hicks, Adam Frazier, and Jack Flaherty. And you kind of talk about this off air. We both kind of funny, but why they picked up Nick Maton from Detroit and Tyler Nevin from Detroit? I don't know what they saw in them, but maybe they just needed the bodies. But they did also pick up Corbin Burns, Jonathan Heasley, and Craig Kimball. Burns is probably the big time name out of all their key additions. He went 10-8 last year with a 3.39 ERA in Milwaukee. And then Craig Kimbrel was a big time relief pitcher. As he got older, he kind of faded away. But last year he had 23 saves and his ERA was 3.26.
Yeah. So, and I looked up Jackson Holiday. By the way, he's Matt Holiday's kid, not
Right.
the late Roy Holiday.
Yeah.
But so interesting moves here by Baltimore. There, a lot of people feel like Baltimore, this is their division to lose. And we will, at the end of the episode, we will go over our predictions for who we think will win this division. But I think they lost a lot, especially with the starting pitching. You got
That's,
Kyle Gibson and Jack Flaherty,
yeah.
and
Those
really only bring in Corbin Burns to replace them.
Mhm.
Uh, and I know Baltimore's got a really good farm system, but like, do you really want to depend on? And I don't know what their pitching prospects look like. I know they had a lot of young prospects, though. But
Yeah.
do you really want to rely on a lot of young players on your rotation when you're playing the Yankees? And I know the Yankees aren't projected. I guess a lot of people have them second, third in the division. But we were talking the other day. I don't know if we mentioned it on the air or not, but this division is probably one of the toughest divisions to guess because legitimately all 5 teams are going to finish over 500. There's a legitimate chance of that happening.
Yeah.
So,
This is probably the toughest division, and at one I don't know if it finished this way, but at one point last year, all 5 of them had a better record than the, AL Central leader
I
at
think it
one
might have
point.
finished that way.
Okay.
I'm not sure on that.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, we chuckled about it off the air a little bit, but especially Tyler Nevin.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Maton, like at least he has a decent glove, I
Mhm.
guess.
Yeah.
But like Nevin, like his glove was never anything special for me. Maton, like yeah, once in a while I'd make a great play, but then he'd go 0 for 30 with 25 strikeouts.
Right.
And Matt Shepard, thank goodness that he's not our announcer anymore. Oh, he's just about to take one deep here. Yeah, Nick Maton was like the extreme ball player, like of like this 3 true outcome where it's either a walk, strikeout, or home run. With him, just eliminate the walk, and it's probably gonna be a strikeout with a home run every 40 at bats. But there's no such thing besides a strikeout or a rare home run with him. It felt like.
I didn't know we were
Um,
getting a mini Brandon rant here.
yeah, well, we could talk about Nick Maton and
I remember how
yeah.
much you talked about him to me, last year, how much you loved him.
Oh my goodness, I don't want to go on that rant, but the fact that they put him in the lineup every day too. We're gonna move on though because I
Moving
don't really
on.
want to. Yeah, I don't want to talk about Nick Maton anymore. Next, we got the Boston Red Sox. Uh, they got Tristan Casas, who is a young first baseman, under 25. I saw a post on Facebook the other day where he's the top first baseman under 25. I argue Spencer Torkelson should be in the conversation for that. Second baseman, you got Vaughn Grissom. Third baseman, you got Rafael Devers. Shortstop, Trevor Story. Outfielders, you got Jaron Duran, Tyler O'Neill, and Willer Abreu. Your catcher is Connor Wong, and your DH for most days is going to be Masataka Yoshida. Their projected starting rotation is Lucas Giolito, Nick Pavetti, Brian Bello, Cutter Crawford, and Tanner Houck. So Boston does not look like the powerful teams of old here.
Mm-mm.
But Alex is going to now tell us some of the main players they picked up this offseason.
Yeah, they picked up a lot, and they actually lost, not quite a bit, but they lost some good players too. The key losses were Justin Turner, James Paxton, guy's last name I'm gonna butcher, Chris Sale, and Alex Verdugo. Can you help me out with that one, Brandon? Luis?
Luis Urias.
Yes, thank you. The and, the well,
Oops.
you can do that. But anyways, they
No, I
picked
was
up
trying to get something on my screen there.
that's alright. They picked up, quite a bit with Tyler Heineman, Tyler O'Neill, Michael Fulmer. I didn't realize they did that till I see this now.
Yeah, it
Cooper
was a
Criswell.
minor league contract, but I think Fulmer has potential to make a difference in the bullpen. That's why I added it on here.
Mhm. Cooper Criswell, Liam Hendricks, and Lucas Giolito.
Hey,
Uh,
job.
I know I was struggling before we started. That's why Brenny. Anyways, last year, Lucas, he got moved around quite a bit, 3 different teams. Washington, I think the Angels, and Cleveland. And he kinda struggled. He went 8 for 15 combined and 4.88 ERA, last season. And Liam Hendricks was, I think, back-to-back reliever of the year in 21 and 22. He did come back from, was it cancer?
I believe so, yeah.
I think it was cancer, so he only played 5 games last year, and he got rocked. His ERA was 5.40.
So I'm not friends with any Red Sox fans, so I don't really have any inside information or any fan knowledge here. But I saw on Facebook or Instagram today, and couldn't remember which player it was, but one of the players said it's pretty obvious what we need. Basically saying I'm not happy with this roster, and I don't think anybody should be. So this is kind of a weird thing for the Red Sox of the last 20 years to have a lot of question marks coming into the season. Again, I think it's still a solid baseball team. Like I said, I see a world where all 5 of these teams finish above 500.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens with the Red Sox this year. I don't think the Red Sox are probably the one team that if they win the division, I'd be the most shocked.
I would.
To,
I'm right there
to
with
be
you.
completely honest with you on that one.
Mhm.
The next team we got here is the Tampa Bay Rays. Tampa Bay this year, it's going to look a lot different than the Tampa Bay teams of the last couple of years, but I guess they change so often that that's not a huge thing anymore. Their first baseman, we got Yandy Diaz. Second base, we got Brandon Lowe. Third base, we got our good friend Isaac Paredes. Shortstop, we got Jose Caballero. Outfielders, you got Randy Arizon. Oh my goodness, Arizaroni. Oh wow, I can't talk.
Sound like
Josh
me.
Lowe and Jose Siri. DH, we got Jonathan Arenado, and then catchers Rene Pinto. Sorry for butchering these names. We are trying our best here.
Yeah. Like I said, we'll be better next time.
Yeah, we'll be better next time. But yeah, and really, if you're watching us right now, and you see the additions and subtractions, there's not many additions and there's a lot of losses
Yeah.
for this Tampa Bay team.
I think the biggest one is Wander Franco, for legal reasons. If you wanna look into that, you can go ahead and Google it
And
at your own
believe
risk.
I believe he got basically released last season, in the middle of the season.
Yeah. I
But
think you're
it's
right.
still one of those things were worth mentioning just because he was a big part of the team last year for the time he was there.
Mhm.
So even though it didn't happen over the off season, I thought it was worth mentioning
Yeah.
still.
He's gone. Jalen Beeks, Andrew Kitteridge, Jake Deckman, Tyler Glasnow, Manuel, I don't remember how you say his last name.
It looks like
I
Megan, but it's probably
I
not.
don't think it is, but anyways, Manuel, we'll just say Manuel, and Christian Bethencourt. Like you said, that's a lot of subtractions.
And
Um,
like you said, Wander Franco and Tyler Glasnow especially, and even Bethencourt, he's a solid catcher. There's
yeah,
3
big
big
key
players
losses.
right there for a team in Tampa Bay that relies on development
Mhm.
and yeah,
And they sorry.
go ahead.
I was gonna say they've only added Yu Chang, Phil Maton, and the former Tigers guy, which we both realized that we didn't have him, in Tyler Alexander.
Yeah. And I like Tyler Alexander. I think he's a
Mhm.
good pitcher to have. He's not a stud or anything like that, but he's a guy that if you need a check or spot start, he can give you that. If you need somebody to eat like 4 or 5 innings, he can do that for you. So
Yes, definitely. He I believe at one point he was a starter, but then they moved him to the, bullpen.
yeah. And I think with how Tampa Bay handles their pitching staff, that's a great addition for Tampa
Mhm.
Bay.
Yes,
Uh,
they'll use him wisely for sure.
yeah.
whether it's the 1 or 2 in the what they call it, the opener at
Yeah.
one point that they, kinda created.
Yep. And then finally, the last team we'll talk about here today is the Toronto Blue Jays. They have a lot of exciting players on their team. Uh, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Kevin Biggio, Isaiah Kiner Falefa from the Yankees, Bo Bichette, and then we got George Springer, Dalton Varsho, and Kevin Kiermaier. We got Alejandro Kirk and Dalton Varsho as your DH and catcher there. And then Alex here will let us know about some of the key players they brought in and lost here.
Yeah, they lost, some pretty good, I would say, solid guys, with, Whit Merrifield, he was pretty good, Matt Chapman, Jordan Hicks, Adam Chimber, Brandon Belt, and, I remember I used to be able to Hyun Jin
I think it's Juan Jin
Ryu, yes. They added Eduardo Escobar, Daniel Vogelbach, Justin
Vogelbach.
Turner Vogelbach, okay. Justin Turner and Isaiah Kinner
Yeah. We're struggling with
IKF.
the name. And we'll
Yeah.
be better next week, but we apologize for all the issues we've been having.
Well,
Like I
yeah.
said, there's some communication issues, and if you haven't noticed, we both have been muting ourselves a lot. We're coughing, so we're both a little bit under the weather still. I'm feeling a lot better, and I think he is too. So hopefully
Mhm.
next week we'll be back to normal.
Yeah.
And then another thing I'm just noticing in here is I would imagine they're going to start Justin Turner over Kiner Falefa at third base, but that's just
Mhm.
my personal opinion. The website I used, I believe they actually just signed Justin Turner earlier this week.
Yeah.
So I don't
Yeah, I
know if
think
that
he
was,
would slide in. Yeah.
yeah. So, but this is one of those teams that they're going to be young and they're really exciting to watch. Oh, and I didn't go over their starting rotation yet. They got Kevin Gosman, Jose Barrios, Chris Bassett, UC Kikuchi, and Alex Manoa. So a couple decent pitchers there, a couple guys I'm not entirely sure about, but I think this team could make some noise in this division this year and have a really good season. I wouldn't be shocked if they win it, and I don't really see them finishing in the basement either. I think
Mm-mm.
they're safely in the top three is
Yeah.
my prediction.
Mhm.
Speaking of predictions, now we're gonna do our predictions. If you're watching us, so we have a slideshow going on here. The next slide is gonna have our fifth place teams, and then each slide will go up. So we're gonna give you guys each of our predictions why we think that team is gonna finish there. I have Tampa Bay finishing last. I just think they lost way too much this offseason, and I don't think they added enough to replace them. And with teams like Baltimore calling up their top prospects, the Yankees were very aggressive this offseason, getting Soto, Verdugo, Grisham, and all those guys. The Red Sox, yeah, they didn't make any big splashes themselves, but outside of Chris Sale and Alex Verdugo, I don't think they really lost anybody too major either. So that is why I put Tampa Bay at the bottom here. But again, I've never really wanted to count Tampa Bay out. So I'm having issues with putting Tampa Bay at the bottom. When I was making these predictions yesterday, when I was getting ready for this episode, I couldn't talk myself out of it. I tried my best, but I just couldn't do it. So I have Tampa Bay at the 5 spot.
Yeah, I have Boston. Mostly the only reason why Boston, like you said, they didn't lose a lot, but I feel like their, Achilles heel is their starting pitching. And if you don't have that in the MLB, doesn't matter how many home runs you hit, you don't have a pitcher that can last more than 4 or 5 innings and gives up a lot of runs, you're just not gonna win games.
Next, we basically, and I promise you guys, we did not talk to each other about who we're going to pick where. In
Nope.
fact, he sent me his about 6 o'clock on Tuesday night. I was done by 3 o'clock Tuesday afternoon with my picks. So we did not look at each other's picks when he did this. I have Boston at the 4, and pretty much for the exact same reasons he said is their pitching is their Achilles heel, and yeah, they didn't lose anybody major outside of Chris Sale, but again, you didn't add any pitching depth. So I don't see Boston really making a run at this at all this year. And then Alex, you go ahead with your 4.
Yeah, I have Tampa Bay. Kind of like you said. Other than I feel like they develop people and are very well coached. It's just a tough division, so it was hard to put them at any higher than uh 4th, I guess.
Yeah. Number 3, we both have Toronto. I think that, like I said a couple minutes ago, Toronto is that one team where I could see them making a run at this thing and winning this division. But for the sake of predictions, I put them at 3 because they're that one team that every year I think we feel like this is the year. This is the
Mhm.
year that they're going to break through.
Yep.
And they haven't broken through yet. And now
No.
that Baltimore is up there, now that New York made all these moves, I just don't see them jumping Baltimore and New York. So
Yeah.
So even though with all this hype and excitement around Vladdy Jr. and Bo Bichette and George Springer, I just don't see them making the hump this year. So
No.
that's why I have them at
Nope.
3.
Yeah, pretty much everything like you said. They'll be a fun team to watch, that's for sure.
Oh yeah,
They always are.
yeah, and we'll be completely honest with you guys. All 5 of these teams, if they were in the American League Central, they're winning that division.
Yep. Doesn't matter.
So, which by the way, we will do the American League Central next week, which that'll be also easier for us too because we are both Tiger fans,
Yeah.
so we are very familiar with that division. So that'll also be easier for us to have an episode on. Next, we have New York finishing 2. We both have that one. The Yankees finishing in second. And again, I think the Yankees have a legitimate chance of winning this division.
Yes, I agree, as Brendan's coughing. And
Uh,
he forgot to unmute himself.
I
Oh,
was
there he goes.
working on it.
It's all good.
But anyways, so but I just think that there's a lot of pressure in New York. And the last couple of years, I've seen Aaron Boone, their manager. I just don't know how well he's handling the pressure. And
Right.
so just with that, I'm kind of shocked they brought Booney back. I'll be completely honest with you.
Mhm.
If you look at his record, you're like, why would you fire Aaron Boone? But if you like watch the games and the press conferences and read the reactions of literally anybody in New York, and you would think that that team lost 120 games last year.
Right.
So, but I mean, the Yankees made a lot of moves this offseason. They were very aggressive. The one reason why I have them in second and not first is they gave up a lot of pitching this offseason, and they
Mhm.
didn't really bring up in a whole lot outside of Stroman.
Right.
So, and like you said with Boston, you can't win if you don't have pitching.
Right.
So that is why I'm giving the edge to Baltimore here.
I'm gonna put this in football. I'm gonna give you a football comparison, and it'll pretty much explain why I have them in second. They remind me of the Dallas Cowboys, and that's why they're in second place.
Haven't done anything. Well, I guess they've won in 2009. I think was the last time they won.
That's fair. So, like what? Uh,
15
over
years.
15
Yeah.
years ago. I know
Actually,
Dallas was in.
the 2010s was the first decade since. Oh well, I don't remember this because I didn't look it up because I didn't realize it was going to get brought up. But
You're
it was
welcome.
like, yeah. You know what? You go ahead and talk about Baltimore at number 1, and I'm going to look
Okay.
up the last decade
As
about this.
Brandon's gonna be researching here. I have Baltimore as number 1 team. If you didn't watch this team last year, you're kind of missing out. Um, Especially now that they have all these young guys running the infield. I'm really excited to see Adley Rushman take the next step. I think it's gonna be fun watching Gunnar Henderson just because I love saying his name. And then of course Jackson Holliday, who's the number 1 prospect in all of baseball, I believe. The last time I looked. I think this team's just gonna be fun. Obviously, it's gonna be probably the closest race in MLB, I would think. But I think they'll just end up squeezing by and outlasting the Yankees.
Yeah. By the way, I looked it up. So the Yankees, in the history of their organization, have only had 2 decades where they did not win at least one World Series. and that was the 1980s and the 2010s.
Jeez.
Every other, I mean, now excluding this decade, obviously we're in 2024, so this
Right.
decade doesn't
So
count
far.
yet.
Right.
But yeah, that's crazy, absolutely
Mhm.
insane. And the reason I'm going with Baltimore for basically a lot of the reasons you said, and also I think, especially with how baseball is now, with it being more bat flip and uh,
Showtime.
showtime,
Yeah.
I think having a young team with full of energy is just going to help you.
Yes.
While being with New York, uh, you can't have a beard or a mustache, whatever it was. I think it's a
No
beard.
facial hair.
Yeah, no facial hair. So you have these strict rules that make absolutely no sense. And the New York media, like, you really think if New York is on a 3-game losing streak and Rizzo takes somebody yard and he does a bat flip and they lose that game 5-4 in extras, you really think the New York media is not gonna bring that
Right.
up?
Right.
So I
Yeah.
just think that Baltimore's gonna play looser just because they don't
Mhm.
have the New York media and they have the talent.
Yeah. And
So
I mean, I think we both kinda watched it last year in the playoffs. They were right there in their games.
yeah.
Their games were exciting too.
So that is all we have for you guys today. Next week on Monday, we will continue our movie series where we rank our top 50 sports movies. This week we'll do numbers 40 to 31, and then next Wednesday we will preview the American League Central. And I promise both episodes will be better. Like I said, this week we've been dealing with sicknesses and stuff like that, so I'm sorry for all the name slurring and
Yeah.
mutes and all that stuff. Hopefully these colds will go away and we'll be good to go next week. Thank you guys so much for checking us out today. I hope you guys enjoyed it through all the glitches and stuff. Um, be sure to like us on Facebook. Links for that in the description if you're on Spotify. Like us on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify too. We always enjoy getting as many listens and views as we can. Be sure to like or tell your friends about us, like and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, leave a comment in whatever platform, or you can shoot us an email at hardballsportstalk@gmail.com. Thank you guys so much for checking us out. I hope you guys have a great day, and we will talk to you next week.